This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 227 is brought to us by Blueberry Markets. Blueberry Markets is all growed up. They are expanding, they are getting bigger, and it is the best thing in the world to see. When I first started affiliating for Blueberry, they were kind of small to medium. Now they're much bigger. They have offices now in Singapore, Malaysia, Dubai, along with MT4, MT5, and TradingView. They have now added C-Trader to the mix. So you can trade Forex, metals, the top 50 traded American stocks, crypto, all right there on the platform of your choice, along with the world's best customer service, especially if you click my link. And the protocol here is exactly the same as it is with Bybit. Go down to the show notes, click the Blueberry Markets blog. The link will be in that blog, and get yourself signed up and have that protection and that backing now and forever. This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and I don't know if I officially said it to all my gold and silver people out there, but congratulations. Patience has paid off here. And it's a great metaphor for what we do here, because sometimes you just have to wait longer than you want to wait. But the payoff is 100% worth it. And during that time, you're going to have to endure people saying, well, you could have put your money here and made a lot more. But those people, one, typically don't even invest. Just remember that. Two, have like 0.0001 Bitcoin and think they now have a platform to tell other people how to invest. Or three, they just suck compared to us. There's no other way to put it. Because when you have something as inevitable as precious metals are, it's just a matter of freaking time. And if anything, if price isn't moving for long periods of time, that's a good thing, because it allows us to accumulate more. And accumulate more, I think a lot of you did, because what was really surprising to me this year as a podcaster was, if you guys don't know, if you're fairly new, in January, I do Outlook episodes for the rest of the year. I do 4. I do macro, that's the first one, and then I do precious metals, and then we do energy, and then we do crypto. Because these are the 4 things we predominantly tackle the most here on the show. And every year, macro gets the most views. Anytime I do a macro episode, it seems to do really, really well here. But not in 2025. Somehow, the stars aligned to where the gold and silver episode, typically one of the least watched episodes of the year, just happened to be the most. The very year where gold and silver made their real move, at least the first one. We'll talk about that. But it was so great to see, because, again, gold and silver had been moving sideways. The mining stocks especially had been moving sideways for such a long time. And the naysayers love to point that out. But what they don't understand, and what you can always tell them if they start giving you a hard time, is, look, guy, we invest for the future, not the past, not the present. So if other things are going up while our market is moving sideways, then good. That means our market is where the value is. I say this with altcoins a lot, because Bitcoin maxis are insufferable, not to mention aggressively stupid, and they do not understand investing even though they think they do. And I say it to people who think gold and silver is an old man's game, and there are better opportunities elsewhere. I don't think there is, especially in terms of upside versus downside. And your ability to play defense more than offense by holding the metal, and your ability to play offense more than defense by going into the mining stocks. And there is still so much opportunity out there, which is what I want to talk about in episode 227. Now, we had our run up. Gold has been in price discovery. It's been at new highs. Silver hit a new high and then came back down. And what people out there in the media and on Twitter who somehow amass big followings, even though their predictions are awful, are saying that gold and silver have topped. But as I tweeted out before, when they say that, they don't give us enough detail. It's a very kind of flippant, kind of hand-wavy thing to say, okay, it's topped, but for how long? And where are you getting this information from? What is making you say that it's topping? Does it just feel that way to you? Because we don't invest by feel. We don't trade by feel. Are you maybe looking at the RSI, you amateur? Because as no-nonsense Forex traders know, the RSI can stay in overbought territory for a very, very, very long time. And regardless of what metric you're looking at, what time frame are you even talking about? Now, I will admit, price action-wise, you do have kind of this hockey stick thing going on. And what often happens with hockey sticks going up is it's parabolic. A parabola goes up and then it goes right back down. But you're not dealing with stocks here. You're not dealing with a Forex pair. You're dealing with finite resources. And the reality of gold and silver being finite resources has finally hit the mainstream contrarians, as we always do. We front-run Wall Street, we front-run the big institutions, and we absolutely front-run the general public for years. We get to accumulate these things for years before the slow-moving dinosaurs and the dumbass public even catches wind of it. But again, even at these levels, and even now that there's a bit of a panic in the buying market, especially in Asia, I think it is still pretty early, believe it or not. Long term, don't forget that. This is the game you must play if you're going to exist in this space, and if you're going to listen to this podcast. If you cannot do this, please leave. But let's get into the silver side of things especially. That's what this episode is really about, because I don't know if you've been following the latest silver squeeze, but I cannot get enough of it. This is must-see TV. I've been watching it like a hawk, and the toughest thing to do is actually kind of distill it down into a palatable episode without getting too in the weeds and getting too nerdy about it. But let's go ahead and get into that portion of the show now. So there are two major bullion banks in the world when it comes to silver. There's the COMEX in New York City and the LBMA in London. And there is high suspicion, and it's not even really suspicion. We know exactly what they're doing. Both banks are lending out their silver at multiples of what they actually have, which you're not supposed to do, by the way. This should be 1-to-1 across the board, but that's not how they operate. Now, this is exactly what pretty much every commercial bank does with fiat. But unlike fiat, you can't print more silver. So this whole endeavor is stupid and is going to catch up to them at some point. And we want to make sure we are fully invested when this time comes. The question is, when will it happen? Because you can replace the silver with mined silver. But as I mentioned last episode, believe it or not, as a crypto episode, we talked about silver early on. There are only about 13 real silver mining companies in the world who have mines that are actually producing silver. And that's not enough. You can't ask these companies to give you more than they have. You also can't ask them to mine more aggressively, because if they do that this year, then what's next year going to look like? They won't comply, nor should they. So when these silver squeezes happen, like the Silver Apes squeeze we saw in 2022, they're good things, because they continue to slowly drain these bullion banks to where there's really nothing the banks can do about it, because again, we're dealing with a finite resource here. But it raises awareness, which is really good, because the more people who know about this, the better. And like I said before, it also slowly drains these banks to where they can't replace enough of it, and they will eventually have nothing left and get caught with their pants down. And when that happens, oh, buddy. But it's never, it usually hasn't at least been, the squeeze itself that completely drains these bullion banks. Every time we have a squeeze, it plays a major part, but it's a series of squeezes that will take these banks down to nothing. And the LBMA is first on the list because they are, out of the two, they were certainly the most egregious when it comes to lending out silver they don't really have. Which, again, you can do for a while, but when people start to stand for delivery, which they have done, that's when we really start to see who is swimming naked. And COMEX and LBMA have been swimming naked for a very, very long time, and there is simply no way to repair this. It is a slow death march to the bottom, and again, once they reach that bottom, you want to be participating in this market any way you can. And if we do range for a while, which is something I can see happening, I'm not making a prediction because I don't want to be like those people, but we might be ranging for a while. Take advantage of this time, because I will say this, we have entered a new stage in this whole process because of what's going on behind the scenes with sovereign countries hoarding silver as well. This was not a thing worldwide. China and Russia were doing it for a long time because they were smart while the West was being dumb. I said it years ago. If anybody remembers, I said it on this show. I'm like, let's be honest. If you were playing a world domination strategy game, who would you rather have on your team? Vladimir Putin and Chairman Xi, or Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, Emmanuel Macron, Boris Johnson, Scott Morrison, and Jacinda Ardern? If those were your two teams, who do you think would win every single time? Two people who understand that their countries are completely fucked in a lot of ways and need to do whatever they can to survive? Or a bunch of midwit NGO puppets? I think the choice is very simple. But luckily, at least in the United States, we don't have one of those in office anymore. This administration gets it, and the race is on, and that does nothing but benefit investors like us. But what this also does, and this is a key takeaway from this episode, contrarians, is, believe you me, when it comes to silver going forward, most of what is stored is not going to benefit the retail buyers anymore. It is mainly going to exist so sovereign countries can have access to it first, and then the ETFs second. And if you think about it, it makes sense. It kind of needs to go to those two places first before it goes to, plebes like us. Because for starters, supply is really getting tight. Rumor has it, confirmed at least, but still a rumor, that this time to fill the LBMA, because of the amount that we have successfully drained it, it took over 500 planes filled with silver bars just to fill that sucker up again to levels that were much lower than they were before. How many times can you do that? Not many. But you saw the reason why it was drained. I mean, just in Asia alone, in India and China, they were going mad for silver. Turkey, as far as sovereign nations go, just bought a bunch. And retail buyers were paying incredible premiums for these things. We're going to talk about that in a moment when we get to the solutions portion of the show. But just understand what's going on right now and how, especially in Asia, these runs on precious metals don't stop. They might pause for a little bit, but those cultures understand what money is and how important it is that you have it. And when they see their neighbors have it and they don't have any, or they're deficient in it, or they feel like they're deficient in it, they're just going to continue to buy more. And now you have entire countries finally figuring out what contrarians have known for the better part of 5 or 6 years. When it comes to silver, this shit is scarce and extremely useful. Oh, and also money. Way better money than fiat currency is. So you have all these things swirling together. And the whole world all of a sudden woke up one day and is like, oh shit, silver kind of matters a lot. And the world doesn't have enough of it, nor will it ever. Oh crap, and AI needs a bunch of it too? Uh-oh. We better hurry up and come up with replacements for it. Oh, they don't exist? Well, shit. Not official financial advice, contrarians, but damn, if I could give it to you, you better get your hands on more silver or more access to silver via mining stocks, which is where the cheapest silver lies, by the way. It always has. And do it soon. Because I do think we might range for a little bit, but I don't know how long a little bit is. And these bullion banks are not replenishing the supply they want. They're not getting back to normal levels. It just keeps getting worse here. And then it's my favorite old man joke. I think Mike Maloney said it first, to where silver really is going to become unobtainium and unaffordium. It's the corniest joke, but I laugh at it every time. But contrarians, the number one thing we do here is protect ourselves. And this is one of the best ways to do it. Now, as we move into the solutions portion of the show, we need to review a bit the ways we can obtain it and what's going on with some of those methods. Because, as I said, it's a different world now. Expect things now to be different than they were before. You are hearing now about this thing called the debasement trade, which again just shows how freaking late these people are to the party. Everybody's like, oh, fiat currency sucks and it always loses value. Well, yeah, great call, guys. How much do you make a year to come up with things like this? But the whole world is catching on. Like I said, Asia always knew about this, but the West is catching on now too. Third world and developing world countries also have known about this their entire lives. But when the West catches up, then, that does mean something because there's money in the West too. And they no longer have it as good as they once did. I've said it before, the West is collapsing for many reasons, but their currency, which was just great by comparison for so long, is still fiat currency. And this decade, because I always said this decade is going to be a decade of absolute chaos, people, for the first time, are finally feeling it and realizing it. And the smart ones are taking action. And the dumb ones will take action too, they'll just do it later. But this whole debasement trade is now a thing. It's just so hilarious. Surprised that they would even say it out loud, but they did. And now it's out there. And as we talk about here on the show, it's never going to get better. The only time fiat currency does well is the early stages of a recession, when everybody panics into cash. Apart from that, it's shit. So you already have that going on. And because of this, there is a run into precious metals. Now, as far as precious metals go, the gold-silver ratio is currently at 84, which is very tilted towards gold still. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in silver there. Now, where do you like to buy your silver? If you like to buy it from local coin shops, as usual, you're not in a really great place. I understand the if you don't hold it, you don't own it mentality. I totally get it. And people feel like there's people out there who feel like if you buy from coin shops, there's more privacy than if you would do it online, which is true. But man, you are going to suffer every single step of the way. Just know that. These coin shops are going to be out a lot. The selection of what you might want is probably not going to be there most of the time. And your premiums, because these shops are smaller than the online shops are always going to be higher. And silver premiums tend to be pretty high. So I've always thought your best move is online, whether you are storing this metal yourself or whether you are having them do it for you. Now, if anybody has followed me for any amount of time, you know that my precious metals are held offshore in Singapore. This works great for me for so many reasons, too. I don't know why more people don't do this. Anybody can do this. I am not rooted to one place. I move around a lot. So carrying precious metals on my person makes absolutely no sense, especially silver, because it's bigger and bulkier. Even if I was rooted to one place, I would probably still do it this way. I would absolutely do it this way, actually, without a doubt. Simply because you can't rob me now. Unless you live all by yourself and you've told nobody about your gold and silver, there's a chance that somebody's going to know. And there's that whole saying, 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. Like, if things get really bad and people know you have gold and silver on you, I wouldn't want that to be me. And I'll have to bring this argument up again because I guess I just haven't done it in a while. But people who are holding silver, there's stackers and then there's preppers. The preppers are doing it mainly because they think there's going to be a day where we have this post-apocalyptic society to where we have to go back to bartering, and gold and silver is going to be the main vehicle through which we do that, which I have pointed out, and I upset a lot of preppers when I say this because it goes against what they've believed for a long time. And I've always said that this is not the way. It's not. If you really walk me through it, it doesn't work because there has to be a buyer if you're selling your gold and silver for goods. And one, how is that buyer going to know that your gold and silver is real? You might know how to test for it, but they might not know how to test for it, and they simply may not trust you. 2, even if you go down to silver coin denominations, that might be a lot more, especially if we come to a time where we're in a post-apocalyptic society, to where a silver coin could be worth like $800. Maybe you only need $200 worth of stuff. And how is somebody going to give you change? That leads me to the one thing that is going to be so demonized, but is still, remember, in a society like this, which I don't think is ever going to happen, but if it does, the only medium of exchange you, me, and everybody else all understands, and is the one thing you're actually going to have a lot of, is cash. And people hate when I say it, but it's so true. The bullets and cigarettes crowd gets really mad too because, when you put this practice into reality, maybe I got food and you want food, but I also have plenty of bullets and cigarettes and I don't need them. Ever think of that? Well, I've got to have something you need. Nope, I'm good, man. I got everything. Well, what will you take? Will you take these gold and silver coins? I don't know if that shit's real, man. I don't know. I'm just a farmer, and I got the food you need. Well, what will you take, Farmer VP? I'll take cash. I know how much that's worth, even though it's shit and it's not worth a lot. At least I know what it is worth, and I know what my things cost in cash. Like, reality can be a bitch sometimes, but it's still reality, So I'm just saying, maybe look for more practical ways here, and just at the end of the day, do what makes sense to you. And I honestly think holding your precious metals offshore, or even at an onshore place, depending on who you are and where you are, is the better move. Just know too, these shops will have much better availability. They're going to have better premiums, but they can run out as well. Even my shop, which almost never runs out, they have silver now, but a couple weeks ago they didn't. Like, you could still buy it and lock in a price because they knew they were getting it, but they didn't actually have it, which I thought was interesting. Now, I'm perfectly fine buying it if they don't have it because, one, I know it's coming. 2, it's not like I'm going to sell it a week later. I'm a long-term holder here. But the one thing that does affect me and everybody else, especially in this world, is the premiums. The premiums have doubled. And I don't know if we're ever going to go back to a world like we were in 4 or 5 months ago, where these premiums were still nice and low. They're still going to be lower than your local shop. And, I saw in Asia all these people standing in these huge lines in India, in China, in Singapore, and Indonesia. And I'm like, do you guys not have internet? There's a much better way. You won't have to stand in line and you'll pay lower premiums. But even online, the premiums have doubled. And I just don't know if we have finally entered a new age to where this stuff just isn't as abundant as it was before, and the premiums are going to reflect this. Yeah, premiums are a part of the game, I get it, but it's just a kick in the pants, knowing there's a possibility that these things are going to be higher going forward and they may never go back to where they were. Who knows? But another way you can go here, and we've talked about this, with silver, the blockchain option is not really there. I don't think there's great options like there is with gold. But there is paper, and I will say for the first time ever, contrarians, I think it's finally time to be a bit careful when it comes to your paper silver. We have always talked about PSLV, which I think is by far your best option. They don't lend it out like these banks do and like some of these ETFs do. And I believe out of all the ETFs out there, they more than anybody definitely have the silver. Rick Rule has talked about this. Rick Rule still has a role with Sprott, and Sprott is who owns the PSLV ETF. Or ETN, I should say, if we want to be technical. But he said that they had to go to all of these smaller bullion banks and completely drain them to nothing just to get PSLV the silver it needs. Like, this is the situation we are in now. But I think if you must hold paper silver, this is going to be your best way. If you hold something different, just make sure they have real audits by real auditing firms, and they actually have the silver they say. Now, there are clear advantages to having paper silver, but it's all for naught if they are doing the same things the LBMA is doing, because there will come a time where they get caught as well. Make sure your silver ETF has the silver. Make sure your silver ETF is not primarily used for a trading vehicle like SLV is. Just to be safe, you may want to consider selling and moving into the real thing, whether it's in your hand or whether it's in somebody else's vault. Because even the PSLV, there is some type of counterparty risk there as well, because their silver is being held at the Royal Canadian Mint. Canada, really themselves, have no gold or silver, and there may come a day where they want to repatriate it somehow. You never know. But the last way here I want to talk about is my favorite way as far as silver goes. I do have physical now. I've gone back and forth with this, but I've always had miners. And just like we do with altcoins in the crypto world, I like to stick to the big boys. I like to stick to the real producers, because if we've learned anything right now, producers really matter. And the majority of my portfolio is producers. And unlike a lot of juniors, these higher cap producers have done extremely well. Now, if anybody knows anything about mining stocks, over time, the money generally flows downstream into the juniors. I have a couple of those as well. One of them is doing great. One of them is doing nothing. But I still like it. I'm going to keep it. But just remember what I just said. There are companies out there, good companies, that really are going a bit sideways, even though silver has not. And even though we're in that uh-oh phase for silver, people are going to look at some of these stocks and say, well, why aren't they moving? Well, there's two reasons why this could be. One, the stock is complete shit. Two, it's going to move. It's just a matter of time. And this is where knowing your mining companies comes into play. Now, I don't know a whole lot, but I follow people who do. I've told you before, Don Durrett is the best in the business. His service is $200 a year, which is the most screaming bargain in the entire space. It should be worth like $15,000 a year. People would pay for it. But what he also does is you can just follow him on Twitter and on YouTube. He releases his best plays, and he shows you his research. And some of the stocks he's recommended have not moved up a whole lot yet. And you also have these things called optionality plays too. Be on the aware for these in the gold and silver space, and really any mining space, where the companies may not have the best drill holes, or they may have fairly low grades on their ore. And this has made them unappealing at certain price levels when it comes to gold and silver. And when it comes to silver, I'm talking like silver in the 20s. In the 20s, these mines weren't making a ton of money. But at 48, where we are now, they're making money. They're making pretty good money, actually. The investing world just hasn't caught up to that yet. So there are certainly opportunities there. I have one of these in the gold space, and you can find some real value here. So overall, just understand, contrarians, that it's getting really bad in the silver space. And that benefits us. And also just know two things. One, this is where you really need to start protecting yourself. And two, believe it or not, there's still a lot of value to be had. One, because it just simply exists and you have to know where to go look for it. And two, I think we still have a long way to go, which means that making moves now, as much as price has ran, seems a bit crazy, but I still think you're going to be really early here.